There's something that happens between a man and a woman that hardly anyone talks about, yet when it finally happens, it changes everything. It's not the loud arguments or the dramatic confrontations you see in movies. It's not about sending one last angry message or blocking someone out of spite. It's not even about begging someone to finally see what they've been missing all along. No. What really gets to a woman, what truly makes her stop and think about what she's lost, is something much quieter than all of that. It's something that takes real courage, the kind that doesn't announce itself. It requires you to sit with yourself in the silence and find a strength you didn't know you had. And when she finally notices what's happened, when she realizes what you've done, that moment stays with her forever. It doesn't leave. It echoes in her mind during quiet mornings and sleepless nights. This isn't about revenge or trying to hurt someone back. This is about what happens when a man finally wakes up and stops handing over his happiness to someone who never valued it in the first place. Let me walk you through this realization, the one she never saw coming. At first, she doesn't even notice the shift. She assumes you're still there, still checking your phone, hoping she'll reach out, still lying awake, wondering if things might get better. She thinks this because that's exactly what you've always done. For months, maybe years, you were the one who cared way too much. You were the one lying awake at 3 a.m. trying to solve problems she wouldn't even acknowledge existed. You were the one talking yourself hoarse, trying to make her feel better when she went silent and distant. You forgave her sharp words, her sudden mood swings, her unexplained disappearances. Time after time, you gave her everything you had because you believed that eventually she'd see how hard you were trying. You thought your effort would matter. You thought your consistency would break through. But here's the painful truth. She never really saw your effort. She saw something else entirely. She saw a man who would never leave, no matter what she did. She saw someone who kept giving even when she gave nothing in return. Deep down, somewhere she probably wouldn't admit even to herself, she mistook your kindness for weakness. Your loyalty looked like desperation to her. Your love looked like neediness. Because of this, she got comfortable. She felt she had all the time in the world to make up her mind about you. She could push you away whenever it suited her and pull you close when she felt like it. You became her backup plan, her safety net, the person she knew would always be waiting. She treated you like an option because you kept proving that you always would be. But then something shifted inside you. It wasn't loud. There was no big blow-up, no final showdown, no dramatic exit. It was quiet, almost invisible at first. You didn't slam doors or send long paragraphs explaining how you felt. You didn't post cryptic messages online or try to make her jealous. You simply stopped. You stopped trying to match her energy when it kept changing. You stopped analyzing every word she said, looking for hidden meanings. You stopped writing essays in response to her one-word answers. You didn't yell. You didn't cry in front of her. You didn't even explain yourself. You just went quiet. And that quietness, that calmness, it feels different to her. It doesn't feel like anger. It doesn't feel like you're punishing her. It feels like freedom. Your freedom. For the first time, she feels something from you that she never expected. Distance. But not the kind where you're pining for her from afar. Not the kind where you pretend to move on while still obsessively checking her social media. This is a different kind of distance. This is the distance that says, I'm not waiting anymore. I'm not trying to convince someone to see my worth. I'm choosing myself now. That realization hits her harder than any argument ever could. Because when a man who truly loved her stops trying, she loses all her power. She can't use guilt. She can't use silence as a weapon. She can't play games anymore. You let go of the rope, and nothing hurts more than realizing the man she thought would always be there is gone. Not physically, maybe, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. The person she thought she could always return to has moved on. That version of you doesn't exist anymore. This shift starts small. You stop replying to her messages immediately. You stop asking if she's okay every time she acts distant. You stop overanalyzing every word she says. You used to spend all your energy trying to make her happy, trying to get her approval. Now you care more about your own peace. You used to make yourself smaller to avoid conflict. Now you realize that saying less actually says more. She feels this change in her bones. At first, she might think it's temporary. She might assume you're playing it cool to get a reaction. She expects you to crack and come back like you always did before. But this time feels different. You're not being cold or playing games. You're just done performing. You're done being the only one making an effort. You're done showing up for someone who used your love as a weapon. You're done proving yourself to someone who treated you like you were ordinary. That shift scares her because she was used to being the one in control. She knew exactly what buttons to push to make you stay or make you chase. But now you're just still, unbothered, out of reach. When she acts out, you don't react. When she tries to start a fight, you stay calm. When she disappears, you don't follow. For the first time in a long time, you're not chasing her. And that calm, centered energy doesn't just confuse her. It reveals the truth. She only had power because you gave it to her. Now she doesn't know where she stands. The man who used to revolve his life around her moods now has his own standards, his own boundaries, his own life. She's not used to this version of you. She's not used to a man who values his peace more than her approval. She's not used to a man who can walk away, not to punish her, but to protect himself. And that's what hurts the most. When you're no longer affected by her drama, she realizes something terrifying. She never really had power over you. She only had access. And now you've changed the locks. When she sees you happy, truly happy, that's when it really hits her. She sees that you're not the same man. You're not angry or bitter. You're not waiting or hoping. You're at peace. You're living your life, doing your work, spending time with people who actually value you. You're smiling in a way she never saw before, a smile that says you're finally free. That's when she understands. She didn't break you. She freed you. The man who used to wait for her texts doesn't wait for anyone now. The man who used to beg for her attention now commands respect without trying. She sees a photo of you looking alive, looking whole, looking like someone who's beyond her reach. In that moment, she remembers how your face used to light up when she walked in. She remembers how you'd rearrange your entire day just to make her smile. She remembers how you carried the weight of the relationship on your shoulders just to keep it alive. And now she's watching you thrive in a life where she doesn't exist. You're not doing it to make her jealous. You're not posting things to get her attention. You're just being yourself. Finally. And that cuts deeper than any goodbye ever could. She realizes you didn't just let go of her. You let go of needing her. Nothing terrifies a woman more than seeing a man she took for granted thriving in a life where she doesn't matter. She thought you'd be broken. Instead, you're better. She thought you'd hide away. Instead, you're out there living, and she's not even in the frame. This isn't about revenge. This is about recovery. And for her, that hurts more than she ever imagined. When you stop explaining yourself, your silence says more than 1,000 words ever could. When you reach that point where you don't feel the need to justify yourself to her, everything changes. You used to explain your feelings, your decisions, your actions. You told her why you cared, why you forgave, why you stayed. You explained why you were hurt, why you were quiet, why you kept trying. But none of it mattered because she wasn't listening. She wasn't trying to understand. She was just trying to control the narrative. And you kept giving her the power to do it. Every time you explained yourself to someone who had already decided not to care, you gave away a piece of your self-respect. But then one day, you just stop. She does what she always does. She tries to guilt you, blame you, twist the story. But this time, you say nothing. You don't defend yourself. You don't explain your side. You don't beg her to see the truth. You just let her talk. And when she's done, You simply nod and walk away. Not because you're angry, because you're at peace. You finally understand that you don't owe explanations to someone who never cared about the truth. That quiet strength is louder than any argument. She can't twist your words if you don't give her any. She can't use your emotions against you if you don't show them. She can't manipulate you anymore. That's when the weight of her choices starts to settle on her shoulders. The man who used to fight to be heard is now a man who doesn't need her to hear him. Nothing creates regret quite like realizing you lost the one person who cared enough to explain until they realized you weren't worth the breath. This was never about being cold. It was never about playing tough. It was never about making her jealous or hurt. This is about rising. It's about standing up after being pushed down for so long. It's about finding your power in stillness. It's about choosing peace over chaos. It's about choosing self-respect over games. It's about choosing your future over her mixed signals. When a man truly learns his worth, he stops chasing people who never deserved him. He stops begging for crumbs of affection. He stops waiting for someone to realize his value. Instead, he becomes unforgettable. Not because he tried to be, but because his absence speaks louder than his presence ever did. The ones who didn't value him always remember. They remember the silence. They remember how he didn't fight or explain. They remember how he walked away, not to hurt them, but to save himself. They remember the day he stopped showing up with a heart they never tried to protect. That's stoicism. That's real strength. Moving with peace, not noise. In a world full of men trying to prove their worth, the man who doesn't need to prove anything is the one who leaves the deepest mark. That's the day she realizes you weren't just another guy chasing her. You were a rare gift she didn't know how to keep, and now she never will. So if you've ever walked away from chaos, if you've chosen peace over conflict, if you've stopped explaining yourself to someone who didn't care, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and say it out loud. Say, I choose peace. Let those words stand for every man still discovering his worth. Because you never have to fight for what's truly meant for you. You just have to be strong enough to walk away from what isn't. And that, right there, that's the kind of strength that changes everything. Not just for her, but for you. That's when you realize the power was always yours. You just had to stop giving it away.